Ask an American, what's happening to this country? And almost everyone gives you a different answer. It's the border, the economy, the politicians, the far left, the Israeli influence. Ask them what America looks like in 2050, and they go quiet because nobody has ever told them. Except somebody did. The United States Census Bureau published it years ago in a document almost no American has read. No majority racial group, far more retirees than children. A country that stops growing on its own for the first time in its history, and a retirement system that runs out of people to pay for it. Everybody knows something is ending in America. Almost nobody knows what's replacing it. Here's the story you've heard. The border broke. The wrong people came in, shut it, and the country goes back to what it was.
I will seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. We will carry out the largest deportation operation of criminals in American history. We will put America first, and we will take back our country.
That's the argument on cable news. That's the argument at Thanksgiving. That's the argument the entire American political system is currently organized around. And the United States Census Bureau publishes a document every few years that quietly says it isn't true. Start with the number everyone fights about. In 1940, roughly 90% of America was non-Hispanic white. 1980, around 80%. Today, 57%. By 2050, 47%. Take a moment to think about that. The majority group that founded the United States will become a minority in their own country. And once that happens, there is no reversing that. That line has never once bent the other way. Not in a boom, not in a recession, not under a single president of either party. 15 administrations have come and gone since 1940, and every one of them inherited that line still moving in the same direction and handed it off exactly the same way. Underneath the headline, there's a sentence buried in the Bureau's own projections that almost nobody quotes. Hispanic Americans are projected to reach somewhere between 25 and 28% of the country by 2050. Black Americans, 13 or 14. Asian Americans, 8 or 9. Every major group in the United States grows. One shrinks. Not shrinks as a share of the whole, shrinks in raw human beings. Fewer of them alive in 2060 than there are right now. The Bureau writes it in flat bureaucratic English, and it is the least ambiguous line in the entire document. The only group projected to shrink is the non-Hispanic white population. And go outside right now, and you can see it for yourself. Around 42% of the non-Hispanic white population is 50 and older. They are already a minority for Americans under 30 years old. So the country changes. That much everyone agrees on. The fight is over why, and the entire country has the why wrong, which is how you end up with 200 million people arguing furiously about a door that doesn't lead where any of them think it does. The Census Bureau doesn't publish one projection of America's future. It publishes 4: high immigration, medium, low, and a 4th one that has never once been read aloud on a debate stage. They call it the zero immigration scenario. It answers the exact question half of this country is screaming for. What happens if it simply stops? It does not show the country freezing in place. It shows the country emptying out. Under that model, the American population peaks almost immediately, then begins to fall. After 2040, the United States loses about 1 million people a year. That is Austin, Texas, gone. Every 12 months. Then again. By the end of the century, the country is shedding over 2 million a year, which is Houston, annually, into an empty hole. The total by 2100 is 226 million Americans, 107 million fewer than this country had in 2022. It is roughly the population of the United States in 1980. Close the border completely, and America does not return to 1980. It shrinks to the size of 1980, carrying 2100's bills. Now, that scenario is a modeling baseline and not a forecast. The Bureau built it to isolate one variable, and no serious person expects a literal hard zero. That's precisely what makes it useful, because it's the cleanest possible answer to the question nobody in Washington will take on camera. And the answer is that America has 2 doors. Door 1 is the country you're standing in. The flow continues, the population holds, and by mid-century, the United States won't even be the same country your grandparents were born into. Door 2 is the country half of America is demanding. The flow stops, the transformation slows, and the nation begins to disappear. There is no third door. There hasn't been one for 50 years. Both are open right now. Every politician in Washington knows which two they're standing in front of, and not one of them will describe Door 2 to you out loud. If you want to know why, subscribe to Below the Surface, because what's waiting behind Door 2 is the part that ends political careers. Here's what happens to a country that stops replacing itself. In 2029, for the first time in the history of the United States, Americans over 65 will outnumber children under 18. That is 3 years from now, and it is the Bureau's main projection, the one they consider most likely. 2038. Deaths in America begin to outnumber births. Every year after that, the country loses more people to the grave than it gains from the delivery room. And the only thing between that arithmetic and outright decline is arrivals from outside. By 2100, 29% of the country is 65 or older, against 16% under 18. Picture a classroom of 20 children, and, standing behind them, 36 retirees waiting on a check. That's Door 1. That's the good door. Behind Door 2, every one of those dates moves toward you. Seniors outnumber children in 2028 instead of 2029. Deaths outnumber births in 2033 instead of 2038. 5 years stolen off the clock. And by the end of the century, more than a third of the entire United States, 35.6%, is over the age of 65. Now put it where Americans actually live. Social Security is not a savings account. There is no vault with anyone's name on it. It runs on one ratio, working people paying in and retired people drawing out. And that ratio was set when the average American family was considerably larger than it is today. Door 1 makes that ratio worse slowly. Door 2 makes it worse fast. And every American who will be paying that bill in 2050 has already been born. The number of them is fixed, locked. Nothing passed in Congress between now and then moves it by a single person, because the deadline to change it expired before most sitting members took office. That's the vice, and both jaws closed decades ago. Everything happening in American politics right now is an argument about which direction to get crushed from. Of course, nobody wakes up in the morning and feels a dependency ratio. What they feel is the squeeze. A grocery bill that climbed and never came back down. Gas prices that spiked past anything most Americans had seen in their lives, then settled at a number that still stings every time the pump clicks off. Rent eating a share of a paycheck their parents would not have believed. A mortgage that has quietly become fiction for an entire generation of people who did every single thing they were told to do. Wages moved. Nobody's pretending otherwise. They just didn't move like prices did. And the gap between those two lines is the exact space where the American middle class used to live. And a country under that kind of pressure starts breaking in places that have nothing to do with money. Americans report fewer close friendships than they did a generation ago, fewer marriages, fewer households with a child in them, which feeds straight back into the arithmetic from 3 minutes ago. Young men and young women in this country are drifting apart politically faster than in almost any other developed nation, and they are dating each other less because of it. The generation expected to fund the retirements of 2050 is not forming the households that would produce the generation after that. Trusting Congress, in the press, in the courts, in nearly every institution built to hold a large, restless country together sits at or near record lows. That last one is the load-bearing wall. A country can survive being poorer. It can survive getting older. What it cannot survive is losing the shared belief that the people running it are telling the truth about what's happening to it, which is exactly how tens of millions of Americans ended up voting for a man precisely because he wasn't one of them. You knew I had to address the elephant in the room. Give him his due. The record supports it, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. Donald Trump was elected in 2024, promising to shut the southern border. And on that promise, he delivered.
I will build a great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall.
Encounters had hit levels this country had never recorded, and the entire political establishment spent years insisting nothing could be done about it. Trump did it. Crossings collapsed. The people who called it impossible were wrong, and that is the single clearest reason he is in office. Now watch what happened next, because his own voters are still trying to process it. The 28th of February 2026, the United States and Israel launch coordinated strikes on Iran.
The US and Israel launched a major attack on Iran on Saturday. President Trump called on the Iranian public to, quote, seize control of your destiny by rising up against the Islamic leadership.
Trump announces major combat operations, and among the objectives he names is helping Iranians overthrow their own government. The strikes came days before Congress was scheduled to vote on a war powers resolution. Reporting on the decision indicates Trump was persuaded of the moment by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The necessity of the war was never explained to the American public, not even at the low standard previous presidents managed on their way into bad wars. And months in, Trump publicly floated that the United States ought to be reimbursed for the conflict by the countries it was helping, naming Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Now read that sequence back. A war against a country that had not attacked America, launched days ahead of the vote on whether he was allowed to launch it, urged by a foreign head of government, never justified to the voters, and now billed to the allies. The man who won by promising to end forever wars is running one. Nobody voted for that. Then there's the files. Trump campaigned in 2024 on releasing the government's Epstein records. It wasn't a throwaway line, it was the whole thesis that got him elected, that powerful people were hiding the truth from ordinary Americans. In July of 2025, he reversed. After months of public pressure, he signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act that November, and then the Justice Department blew through the deadline Congress set by more than 2 months, releasing the material heavily redacted and in batches that lawmakers from both parties called disorganized. This was very upsetting to everyone, including his supporters, for obvious reasons. Among the documents that eventually surfaced were FBI interview notes containing allegations against Trump himself.
Welcome back. New fallout this morning from the Epstein files release. Democrats are demanding answers after new reporting from MS Now and NPR showing the Justice Department withheld notes and memos concerning a woman who accused President Trump of sexually abusing her when she was a minor.
From a woman who says she was one of Epstein's victims and was assaulted by Trump as a minor in the 1980s. Those are allegations, sitting in investigative files, unproven in any court, and Trump denies them. But the fight to keep the files closed is not an allegation. That's documented. It lasted a year and a half, and it was waged by a president who ran on opening them. So here is where a lot of Americans have quietly ended up. A great many young men in this country voted for this administration, and they were not casual about it. They were hopeful in a way people are usually too guarded to be about politics, because they had looked hard at the alternative and found it genuinely unlivable. What they got was a border that actually closed, which they wanted, alongside a war they never asked for, a file release that stalled, and a cost of living that never meaningfully broke in their favor. And the conclusion a lot of them are arriving at is worse than deciding they backed the wrong man. It's that the machine is bigger than whoever sits on top of it. That the left was unacceptable and the right turned out to be roughly as compromised, and that there is currently nowhere for a person who feels that way to go. Trump is gone in 2028. That's in the Constitution, and it arrives regardless of anyone's feelings about it. The two doors will still be standing exactly where they are. So, what does America look like in 2050? No racial majority group for the first time in the nation's existence. More retirees than children, a line crossed 21 years earlier. Deaths outnumbering births for over a decade. A retirement system running on a ratio that broke before most of the people depending on it were born. And a population that is either still transforming or already shrinking. depending on which door the country walked through. Every figure in this video came from the United States Census Bureau, and the Americans who produced those outcomes have already been born, or already haven't been. Everybody knows something is ending in America. What's ending is the part where the country's still got to choose. So which door do you take? Door 1, and accept a nation that looks nothing like the one your grandparents knew. Or door 2, and accept one that gets older, smaller, and poorer, but stays recognizable a while longer. Every honest answer here costs something enormous, which is exactly why no politician will put the question to you straight. So we're putting it to you. Tell us in the comments which door you take, and be honest about what you'd be handing over to get it. And subscribe to Below the Surface, because America is not the first country to walk up to these two doors. Europe got here 20 years earlier. What they picked is already visible on their streets, and that's where we're going next.